Hi. So it's late at night for me, and I wanted to come in here and do some YouTube recording because I felt really compelled to share some of the ideas that were on my mind and in my heart. And I would definitely encourage you, if you are feeling like it's hard for you lately to feel at peace on a regular basis, to feel joy, to feel like you have a stable sense of self confidence in your life, stable sense of peace in your relationships. If you're struggling with any of these things, I would really suggest for you to listen to this whole video, take it in, and really stay till the end because I'm hoping that this will be one of the most important videos I've maybe ever made on this YouTube channel. And for anybody who's been here for a while, you know I make a daily video for quite a long time. So I hope this really resonates with you. So I want to talk about this topic. Like, why do you feel miserable? Why do you feel unhappy? Why are you not feeling like you can just be at peace and thriving every single day of your life? Why is that such a big ask? And the concept I really want to talk about here is something called individuation and really about how we identify our sense of self and how that literally translates into everything and has one of the biggest impacts on how happy or not happy you feel regularly. So I want you to start by just thinking for a moment about all of the different ways that you get programmed or we get programmed as human beings by our outside world. Everything from how we see ourselves, like our body type and what we think that means, and the different parts of our body and what that means and what we should look like, how sexualized things are, how sexualized things should be because sex sells all over society, or how rigid things should be because maybe you come from a really rigid orthodox background where you have to, experience the exact opposite of that. And I'm not saying one or the other is good or bad. I'm just wanting you to recognize all the different messages we get. And this is all going to tie in together. You're going to see why this matters. I want you to think about all the programming you have and you've acquired about how much money you should have, what career you should be in, and what you should be doing for a living. And for what reason, right? For societal pressure, so you can have a certain career, so you can attract a certain type of mate or person. Like we get constant ideas. I want you to think about all the different concepts you've acquired over time about what material things you should have, how you should spend your money, what your relationship should look like, the type of person you should be dating, when you should be dating, married, having children, settling down, why you should stay single instead, all these different concepts, ideas, what decisions you make for your health, your well being. And we get so much messaging on a daily basis. I have to be X type of person. I have to act this type of way. I have to have, these sorts of experiences or materialistic things or belongings in my life. And I want you to notice how many of these things you ever actually chose for yourself because you sat and you really considered versus how many of these things you just accepted as ideas that you should be living by. Now, how we just accept ideas is basically how we get programmed, and we are all being programmed all day, every day. And there's a few really important things you need to understand about programming. The first thing is that your subconscious mind runs your life. So your subconscious and unconscious collectively are responsible for 95 to 97% of your thoughts, your decisions, your actions, and your behaviors, and your emotions, by the way. Um, and the rest is your conscious mind, roughly 3 to 5%. So the part of you that you're aware of, that conscious part of you all day, that's 3 to 5%. The rest is subconscious. Now, you are constantly taking in programming, and how you get programmed is through repetition plus emotion. Now, the best way that you get programmed, the easiest way, the programs that they make themselves, into your subconscious mind and they sit there and you get imprinted with programs is through fear. Fear really lowers our defenses and it creates more of something called suggestibility. We basically become way more open to being programmed when we have a lot of fear. In other words, repetitive fear mongering in our world is a great business model, right? There's so much money to be made and constantly scaring people. I mean, I know, for example, that on this YouTube channel, I could, create more clicks on videos if I said things like, do this or else your partner will leave immediately. Like, Yeah, we could title things that way, but that's not the type of content and environment that I want to bring into the world and that I want to represent. But for yourselves, and you see this a tremendous amount in commercials, in the mainstream media. I mean, you see this all over the place. And we even see it all over YouTube, right? We see it everywhere. And when you look at the different fears that we collect, okay, so when earlier we were talking about how we get programmed by the external world, we have all this programming about what career we should be in, how much money we should make, how we should spend that money, when we should have what relationship and for what reasons. And so much of why we just accept programs from the world around us is because we are afraid of not fitting in. We are afraid of not being enough. We are afraid of not doing the right thing. But my question for you is, according to whom? Like, according to the society, like, that we grow up in, that we receive these programs from? And are society's standards really what you want to reflect and what you want to represent as a human being? Are those the standards and ideologies that you want to run your life? I mean, I think we can agree there's a lot of sickness in society. And there's a wonderful Krishnamurti quote that says, "It is no measure of proper health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society." And so when we get all of this messaging, right, about who we should be, how we should show up, what car we should drive, what house we should be living in, what age we need to be doing XYZ by, what job we have, if you are not making those decisions for yourself, if you are not taking the time to consider what a happy, fulfilled life looks like to you, and if instead all day long, all week long, all year long, year after year, month after month, you are just intaking the collective opinions circulating through different modalities in society about how you should live and who you should be, then it's a recipe for misery. It's a recipe for living your life based on outside programming from society, which I think we can probably all agree on that our society isn't in a great space right now. And if you are just constantly taking that on and you are deriving your identity, your sense of self, and how you should be living your life from circulating opinions and concepts and ideas simply floating around the collective, whether it's what you should wear or what decisions you should make for yourself, not only is that a recipe for misery, but also, guess what else happens? The opinions of other people will terrify you because you are deriving your sense of self from the outside in rather than from the inside out. Meaning you'll find yourself in situations way more often where it's hard to self soothe, where you may struggle with your emotions and your emotional state. You will feel like your sense of security as a human being is being rooted in the outside world. First of all, the outside world is always changing. Second of all, we just agreed that the outside world is not really in a great space right now. And third of all, you will never get acceptance from the outside world. That's not where a sense of acceptance comes from. And the more self acceptance we have, that's what self confidence really is and becomes. So I want to tell you a story. I had this client, and we'll call the client Jasmine. And she was a client of mine years ago. And I remember her coming into my office, and she said that she would work all day and she was a paralegal, and she would come home from work and she would ruminate about what people thought of her. She would go over and over it in her mind, and she would think about what this interaction was with this person at 9 a.m. and then this interaction at 9:30 and what they all thought of her. And she said she would get home from work, and she would just go sit in her bed and just like think and think and think. And she said she would have all this anxiety, and she was constantly living her life trying to keep up with the latest trends. She was constantly living her life. She didn't want to be a paralegal, but her parents wanted her to go into law. So that's why she was there. Even all this time later as an adult, it's like her parents were still running her life. She was living paycheck to paycheck because she constantly felt obligated to spend money on like new fashion trends, had an expensive car that she really felt like she couldn't afford, and it was stressing her out, but she felt that she had to kind of buy into that to get acceptance, to get approval. She had these unfulfilling friendships that she felt were superficial. And I remember sitting with her and asking, when you look back on your life one day, do you want to think about how you spent your entire life just trying to keep up with society's demands, with the ideas of what's cool next or what's exciting next or who you should be or how you should be living, because you're trying to get your sense of acceptance and self-esteem and self-identity from the outside world constantly? And does it surprise you that you're not happy? Does it surprise you that this feels really miserable and it feels bad? And this is a question that we have to ask ourselves. Now, not everybody's that extreme, right? But do you find yourself deriving your sense of self identity in the world and the society's sort of ideas and opinions of how you should be showing up? Or have you ever sat and actually considered what a fulfilling life looks like just to you? Not to your friends, not to your family, not how much acceptance or approval they give you, but just to you. Like if you could actually live your life in all seven areas, right? Career, financial, mental, emotional, spiritual, physical, relationships. If you could look at each of those areas of life and you could imagine that everybody's opinions are whited out, you can't see them, they can't affect you, they can't touch you, they don't exist just for a moment, would you be living the life that you're living right now? And we tend to do this thing where we put people as the authority over our lives. And I believe that part of that is because we're afraid, right? Programming comes so much through fear. We're afraid of making mistakes and not fitting in or doing the wrong thing and having to deal with the consequences. But really, underneath that, we have been conditioned to become afraid of taking personal responsibility for our lives and for our choices. And we become afraid of the repercussions of making the wrong decisions. But guess what? You will make the wrong decisions in life, whether you take responsibility for your life or not. Sometimes not making a decision and just freezing and avoiding taking responsibility is in and of itself a personal decision. And part of how we learn and grow and evolve actually comes from us being able to take radical responsibility for our choices. And that's the first place to start is for you to stop and consider, what does a happy, fulfilled, joyful life look like just to me? Not to anybody else, not to my parents, not to my siblings, not to my children. As radical of a statement as that may sound, it doesn't mean don't be there for your children, but the best way you can be there for your children or anybody else in your life for that matter is to be the best, happiest, most fulfilled version of yourself. Because I can guarantee when you do that, your cup will overflow with love and joy and care to give. And that's really the best gift you can give to anybody in your life. And my next question for you is, have you ever sat down and really evaluated the seven areas of your life and what that's supposed to look like? So let's just start together for a moment here. In your career, are you living a life that's actually fulfilling you when it comes to career? Are you in a job that's making you happy? Do you have healthy boundaries at work? Are you saying yes and no to the right things, the things that matter to you? Are you building workplace relationships, asking for a raise if you feel that you need it or you deserve it or you're worthy of it? Are you living in a way that fulfills you in that area? And you should almost rate it from 1 to 10 and see where you can improve. And the next part is financially. We do a lot of crazy things with money. Like people will spend their whole paycheck on the fancy car so that they can get approval from their coworker that they see and interact with 1 hour out of the week, or from, driving past people on the street that they will never have a conversation with. Like people do crazy stuff with money. Where does this come from? It's not your fault. It's that you're programmed by society. You're programmed to be so afraid of not fitting in, so afraid of not getting approval. But the worst part of it is that it becomes this vicious cycle. You get afraid of not getting approval. And in that fear, you abandon what you really want and who you truly are as a means of trying to compensate to then go get that approval. And oftentimes we go against ourselves and our truth. Now, part of it's because we don't even know what that truth is because we've never actually individuated. We've never actually considered who we are and what we want. So again, of course, this is part of what makes you miserable. It's a recipe for it. So money, what are you doing with money? Do you spend money on all your friends and family and never save money for yourself? Do you feel pressured to go on trips or do things that you don't actually want to do? What are your habits with money? Are you living a lifestyle that's just way beyond your means? For what? Is that financial stress worth it every day? Okay, so let's look at the next area. So go through this with me, like write notes. Where are you at from 1 to 10? How much are you making choices for you, for your truth? And by the way, if you don't know the answer, that's okay. There's work you can do on this. There's self-reflection. I have a course you can check out for free on this, all about strengthening self-identity. I'll leave it down below. Literally go and take it for free. And if you don't want to be a member in the school, you can go right into your settings and cancel your account. Like I just want you to go through this and be supported. And by the way, if you cancel before 7 days, you don't get charged anything, nothing. So if you want help and support, go do it. You can click in your settings of your account and click cancel. And it's that simple before the 7 days, and you can go have the course for free. But just go if you're struggling with this. I can't, like, I'm going to keep going through some other things here. But like, I can't stress enough how important this is and how much of an impact this has on like your self-esteem, your self-worth, how much or how little really you end up ruminating and caring so much about what people think, and how that can just like get to you so much, or you can seriously feel free of it. Like, okay, that's their opinion. So I'll tell you why that happens in a minute. We'll get there. So we'll go back here. So like, let's just look at some high level areas. We won't even go through all 7 areas, but career, money, health. I'm going to share a personal story. I years ago was in a group of people, and a lot of this group of people were vegan. And they were like, "Oh, be vegan, be vegan, be vegan." And I was like, "Okay, this sounds good." And listen, I love animals. I appreciate animals. And at the time, I was like, "You know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to go vegan." So this is like years ago now, 8 years ago, I don't know, something like that. And I felt miserable being a vegan. I for sure had some pre-existing gut health issues that I wasn't aware of at the time. And I had like so much chronic inflammation, like headaches, night sweats, insomnia. Like it just wasn't working for me. Like eating high carb, high sugar was not working for me. And yeah, a lot of it was like healthy too, like a ton of fruits and things like that. But like it just was not working. I was eating a lot of foods with a lot of lectins in it. If anybody knows about the health, has gone in that path. Cucumbers, tomatoes, nightshade vegetables, eggplant, all that kind of stuff. Eating it. And it was making me miserable. Beans, they were not good for my gut, all these issues. So I was having all these issues, and it took me like a year and a half to be like, okay, this isn't working for me. And like that was me not individuating from a health perspective. Now I eat a keto diet. That's what works well with me. I feel clear, clean, energized, really healthy. I still don't eat red meat for personal reasons related to animals. But I do eat chicken. I do eat fish, and I'm being biased towards certain animals, I know. But I needed that for me and for my body. And like that was a game changer for me to be able to come into the world and do things and put content online and not be exhausted all the time. So, we have to stop listening to the outside world. We have to stop putting like other people. I had people that I was around, like kind of on this pedestal, like, oh, they're so healthy. They know so much. And I didn't listen to my body, hear myself out, see what was happening for me, learn about what was working for me, and not pay attention to how food was affecting my body, make my own personal healthcare choices, because all of our programming, all of our biology is so unique and individual. And I learned that lesson the hard way. I've learned a lot of these lessons about individuation the hard way in the first place. Um, but guess what happens when we start doing that? When we do that in relationships, if someone doesn't do things, if you start really knowing who you are in a relationship, what you bring to the table, what you want in a relationship, what you want to create with somebody, and how you want that relationship to go, and you have healthy standards and you know your non negotiables, AKA you are individuating, you're understanding exactly what you are trying to create and design for your life from the inside out. When somebody doesn't call you back or doesn't follow through, or cancels a date when you're starting to get to know them, you don't go into this space of like, oh my gosh, it's me. I'm not good enough. This is so painful. I'll never be with somebody. You don't go there. You know where you go instead? You go, oh, somebody didn't get back to me or they didn't follow through. Is that the type of person that I want to be with? Because I'm clear and I'm aware and I know what my standards are for what I'm looking for. And if that person isn't willing to meet me where I would like to be, then they're not for me. And that's perfectly fine. And we stop because we're not, do you notice the difference here? We're not deriving our sense of self and identity chronically, consistently from the outside in, from what people think, from if they like us. No. We're deriving our sense of self from what we want. We're clear. We know what we want to create, and we're also vetting people to see if there's the right match. And this is so important because the more we don't have that healthily, intrinsically developed sense of self, the more we will keep chasing, we will keep people pleasing, and we will try to do the 1 million things that other people and society expect from us so that we can reach this perceived goal of finally being accepted at this like perceived endpoint on the journey. But acceptance will never come from the outside in. Acceptance will come from learning who you are and what you actually want to create and design from the inside out in each of those 7 areas of life, from considering yourself and respecting yourself and having compassion for yourself as a unique individual in this world. And when you hear opinions from the outside world, from these authoritative people in the world, right? Whether it's your boss, whether it's your parents you haven't taken off the pedestal, whether it's some authority in some kind of system in the outside world. When you hear those things, you will consider their opinions. You will listen to them. Oh, that's an interesting opinion. Does that make sense for me? Is that something that I think is the best choice, knowing what I know about me because I know myself and I have considered myself? And when we have the capacity to do that, we can still make wrong decisions. We won't get it right 100% of the time. There's no guarantee for any of this. But two things will happen. Number one, as time goes on and you learn yourself better and you grow and evolve through any wrong decisions you make, it will get easier and easier to consistently make right decisions decisively, feeling clear about it because you keep learning and taking yourself into consideration. And second of all, when you do make a mistake, you will experience less regret. You won't be in this place of like, oh my gosh, this person abandoned me after I already knew that they weren't the right person for me and I ignored all the red flags. You'll be like, you know what? I put my heart into this. That was me backing myself. That was me being in integrity to myself. And if it didn't work out, it wasn't meant to be. And so we can save ourselves from so much unnecessary heartache, regret, frustration, freeze mode of making wrong decisions by just stopping people in the outside world, whoever those people are, whatever set of collective opinions you have attached yourself to and tied yourself to, and tried to derive your happiness and joy from. When we stop putting other people on a pedestal and we don't make anybody, like you should not be making anybody the authority over your own life. Nobody knows as much about you as you do, but sometimes we just have to pay more attention. Sometimes we have to dig a little deep and see what that all means. And we can get ourselves out of feeling miserable by attaching ourselves to these outside opinions and then constantly trying to people please that. And not only will you feel as a result of that stronger and more empowered and more balanced and more healthy and confident, but you'll have a greater capacity to weather the storms of your life, to deal with ups and downs as they come, and to feel confident in who you are and your choices. It will make self soothing easier. You won't even have to self soothe as much. And all of this is about individuating and putting yourself as the authority over your own life. And that's really, to be quite honest, why I created PDS in the first place. The whole point of PDS is I worked with clients one to one. And I felt like in a lot of this model of healthcare, and I'm absolutely not saying that it's wrong, but sometimes in a counselor client relationship or therapist client relationship, sometimes there is like this dependency that can easily be fostered where it's like, oh, you come in when you feel stressed to then feel better because somebody's helping you feel better all the time. And part of like the whole point of why we have the personal development school is that it's supposed to be there to teach you how to be the authority over mastering your own emotional state, reprogramming limiting beliefs, feeling like you know your boundaries, you know how to communicate. And it's supposed to be like, give the man a fish versus teach a man to fish, right? So that he can eat for a lifetime. It's about you being able to take those tools into your own hands. So I hope this video makes sense. It could just be like a big ramble of things that were on my heart, but I just felt that it was really important in today's day and time to share this. Again, if you seriously want to just go in and take that course, go take that course for free. I will let you know as well. The first like 25 minutes of that course is boring. It's very all about like Erickson's stages of behavioral development. And if that bores you, fast forward, we get into the good stuff. It's all about learning to see who you are and what you want, and actually how to pattern that in and shed old parts of your identity that you didn't ask for. If it was you got this horrible belief about yourself that you're not good enough, or that you can't trust anybody, or things from trauma, it's also about how to remove those things while actually creating who you want to become, getting clear on that, not fearing people's opinions so much, and also then designing a mission and vision plan for your life according to that information. So it's all about strengthening and having this like healthy self identity from the inside out. And again, like seriously, go in there, use that link below, take the course. You can take it for free. If you don't want to use PDS, you can cancel in these settings immediately. Like, I'm here to share that with you. I hope you go and I hope you use it. I hope you get a whole lot out of it, because I think that this and really learning this is life changing for everybody. And I'm just grateful to be able to share that with you if it's helpful to you. So thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. And I will see you in the next video.